The hub is in my hands today, and that means I need your comments on these. Now, a new smartphone app for school kids has been rolled out across secondary schools in parts of the Midlands. The free sex education app is intended to cut teenage pregnancies, but will also offer responsible sex tips to children as young as 13. Now, do you think that's a good idea, or is it irresponsible? Would you be happy for your child to use it? Tell us what you'd think. And keeping on the internet theme, an Ofcom report has revealed nearly half of all preschool children are tech-savvy before they've even started school. What do you think about toddlers using the internet? Are you guilty of using technology as a virtual babysitter? Tell me what you think. Email this morning at itv.com. You can also send a message via Facebook, or if you've only got a little bit to say, why not tweet me? Give us your comments before midday today for a chance to get them on air, and I'll be back later.
See you later, thank you. It's really quite fair to say that most brides get pre-wedding jitters, but Kerry Woodford had more than most. After nearly tying the knot 3 times, she finally walked down the aisle with her chief bridesmaid, and Kerry's here later.
Sadly, many weddings don't have such happy endings, and if you and your spouse are considering separating, family law expert Marilyn Stowe's taking calls on whether it's better to start proceedings now or to get through the stresses of Christmas first.
Also today, Alexis Conran's back with advice for food and fashion fans.
And it's the TV show in which 8 women were battling for the title of Jewish Mum of the Year. Last night, Sandy and Jacqueline were announced as the finalists, and today they're here to face their most important challenge yet, to see whose chicken soup is best. I'm looking forward to that so much.
I am too. I watched a bit of the show last night.
Yes.
And I stuck it until they all started singing on the coach, and that was about that. That was about the end of it for me. I've got to say, it was a great show, great show. I'm thrilled they're here today, but the singing in the coach was just one step too far.
They'll be singing at you now as they're cooking soup.
Also, they've changed little for hundreds of years, but recently funerals have started to celebrate life rather than mourn death. Today, Dominic Maguire's here to talk about why we're getting more relaxed with our send-offs and to look at some alternative ways to be remembered.
And to make sure you remember all of that, take a look at this. We'll start today's show with a look through the headlines with Quentin Letts and Christine Hamilton. BBC Director-General George Entwistle appeared before the Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee yesterday. During the hearing, he admitted that he agreed that the Newsnight report into Savile should not have been scrapped. He says that he did not recall that any discussion with Director of News Helen Bowden about the content of the programme at lunch on December the 2nd. Let's just have a little look at what he had to say.
When Helen Bowden said to you, Newsnight is looking into Jimmy Savile, what did you think they were investigating?
I don't remember reflecting on it. This was a busy lunch,
You're told that one of the flagship investigative programmes on the BBC is looking into one of the most iconic figures who you are about to commission huge tributes to, and you don't want to know what it is?
It wasn't that I didn't want to know. What was in my mind was this determination not to show an undue interest.
After that appearance, Culture Secretary Maria Miller wrote to BBC Chairman Lord Patten saying very real concerns are being raised about public trust and confidence in the BBC.
Yes, I think I'd prefer the Secretary of State to keep her snout out of this. I'm uneasy about politicians telling the BBC what to do. However, there was George Entwistle yesterday. He's been in the job 38 days. We're in danger here of a Brian Clough, 40 days at Leeds, I fear. He has a very long neck, this man. I was in the room yesterday watching him. Very long neck, all the better for chopping, I fear. He's in danger.
Are you talking about physically? He has a physically
long neck. Remarkably, he was going very blotchy.
Oh, OK.
Poor man. You know, the way it sometimes happens when you're under pressure. But what a forest of brambles this has become. And the Director-General, Entwistle, yesterday he appeared to me a prisoner of process. and of managerialism. And what the BBC needs more than anything is a guiding star, a prophet of quality. And he does not seem to be that.
Well, I didn't see the whole thing, unfortunately, but he blamed the system, apparently. And what I find extraordinary about Entwistle is, to me, he's just got to go. He's not up to the job. And they need an outsider. It would be much better if somebody outside came in. He used to be head of something called Vision, head of Vision. Well, it seems to me from his performance yesterday, he ought to be head of Myopia. I mean, he just did not ask the right questions. No alarm bells seem to have rung in either his head or any of the other people at the time.
Aren't we in danger here of being distracted from the main issue?
It's very important to remember that George Entwistle is trying his best, and he is not the pederast here. And there is a certain amount of displacement activity by the newspapers, who have perhaps their own agenda in some respects, and also everyone's very angry about Jimmy Savile. But the BBC managers were not actually personally responsible for what Savile did. Savile was responsible for that. But I'm afraid that they are the people who are getting the flack at the moment.
Well, I mean, hopefully nobody's suggesting that anybody high up in the BBC was involved in it, but they do seem to have had an extraordinary, I think it was John Whittingdale who said, lack of curiosity. And the business of pulling the Newsnight programme, because it might affect the Christmas schedules, is extraordinary. I don't think we really have the full answers yet as to what exactly has gone on at the BBC.
Well, what has gone on at the BBC is that it has been possible for low-grade people like Jimmy Savile to become great celebrities, and it's the celebrity culture which is partly to blame, and it's a general grottification of standards at the BBC, which has happened. Philip, this is very much the case.
No. You said that the people like Jimmy Savile. How did you describe him then a moment ago?
Low. I mean, he's a highly egregious low-life figure.
But I mean,
he wasn't
at the time, he was one of the biggest stars in the country.
It was obvious to people who want quality in their culture that this man was not a highbrow figure, and the BBC exists.
But entertainers seldom are
highbrow.
The BBC. This is very important. The BBC is not there just for ratings. The BBC is there for quality, and they lost sight of that.
But there's a variety of shows on the BBC,
yes,
and he was an entertainment presenter. I don't think anybody expected him to be highbrow.
Well,
you can't leave all the entertainment to ITV. I mean, why not? They do it better. But you can't leave it all to ITV.
I think
you can. Got to do entertainment.
I think you can leave quite a lot of it. The BBC does too much, and it is not upholding the standards in the way that it should have done. It's not been the great...
Your BBC of the 1960s and 70s would have been a very dull place by the sound of things.
Not necessarily. No, it would have been good for the country. It would be good for our culture.
With any luck, people moan on and on and on nowadays about there's far too much celebrity culture, and there are too many of these sort of C-grade celebrities, of which, well, I'm usually Z-grade in these people's eyes. But the point... Actually, at least why. I think... Whatever. I think the point is that the more people there are nowadays who are, I hate the word celebrities, actually it would be much less easy because they're much more expendable. In the Jimmy Savile days, there were a few really big stars. We're talking way back, 40 years ago. Now it isn't like that.
This is a story that, and we said yesterday, at the end of yesterday's show, we had our meeting and said, right, I think we probably might leave it tomorrow. Maybe there won't be anything else to cover. As this has rolled on and rolled on and rolled on, and that now it would appear the latest allegations that nobody was safe, even the dead. Jimmy Savile may have been a necrophiliac, a former colleague said yesterday. These were claims made by former Radio 1 DJ Paul Gambaccini. He was on BBC Radio 5 talking to Nicky Campbell, and this is what he said.
10 years ago, did a reporter from the Scottish Sun go around a wedding boasting that everybody at the Sun knew about the Savile necrophilia story? Was it because they did have a necrophilia story, or was it because people from the Sun just go around calling living celebrities necrophiliacs? There's a question to answer there.
So this is the headline in one of the London papers today, and I have to say, I had heard that rumour. I hadn't heard, as we would discuss for the past 3 weeks, how much you knew, how much you'd been discussed. I'd never heard about the paedophilia, but I had heard the necrophilia story. And if someone says something like that, without question, you think, oh, don't be so ridiculous. That's just ridiculous gossip.
I'm very uneasy talking about this, but because some things, by their very consideration, sully us as a society. And I think that these things are best left for the cold analysis of a public inquiry or of a judicial inquiry. I don't think we really gain much by chatting about this.
Yes, all right.
I think you're probably right. According to the Mirror, killer Christopher Halliwell may finally be preparing to admit to his family that the murder that the murder of Becky... Sorry, this is written wrongly here. Basically, he's finally going to give up the information that the family have been wanting for an incredibly long time about any questions surrounding Becky's murder. This happened 7 years earlier. He's actually been taken into custody and charged with the murder of Sian O'Callaghan, 22, and during the time that he was in custody, he has admitted to murdering Becky 7 years beforehand. It's
what
his
he
daughter
said,
that's put in the claim.
They wrote to him and said, please tell us, and we've discussed this during the course of the week, please tell us. He has now said that he will tell the relatives as long as they ask him to his face. He will say, I'll tell them anything they need him to ask.
Something quite dark in that, isn't it? About getting someone to come
very
face to
dark
face.
about, yes. I mean, the last thing they probably want to do is confront him face to face.
But it's like a power play.
What I think is interesting here is that his daughter, the killer's daughter, Carissa, who's only 18, imagine having to come to terms with the fact that your father's a murderer at all, but a double murderer, and possibly there are other murders that he may be, the police think he may be linked with. Horrendous. It doesn't bear thinking about.
There is a description in the Daily Mirror story of Becky's mother and grandmother in the court in terrible tears, which I found very moving. And there are also allegations of the police making mistakes in taking the confession. And there has to be, and sometimes I think we forget, we have to bear in mind that there is a balance between justice and legal nitpicking. And sometimes the lawyers get away with too much nitpicking.
Yes. It does seem shocking that you can confess to something and yet it not be taken into consideration in the court. It's not quite right somehow.
I did want to just mention this one to you because it's an NHS website for children aged around 13, apparently, blasted by critics who say that it advises youngsters they can flout the age of sexual consent.
This is ghastly.
And now immediately we said this morning, right, OK, well, let's get the app, let's look at the website. I wanted to know what you saw first of all. What are your first visions when you log on to the website and see? And this is it. This is the homepage here. It's called Respect Yourself. The first thing you see is that it says here, explore the pleasure zones, read the sectionary. What it doesn't say, and I would have hoped, for me, as a father of two girls, I would have hoped that the first thing I would have seen is, are you here because you're forced to be here? Are you here because you want to be here? There would be a piece about respecting yourself. Are you making the decisions for yourself? Do you feel pressured into this? None of that. It's straight into explore your pleasure zones.
I found this whole thing completely horrendous. Apparently it's paid for by the taxpayer. It's an NHS thing. Now, of course, apps like that to encourage people and to tell them about relationships is one thing, but there's a list of all the erogenous zones and goodness knows what. I mean, at least it does tell the boys that they should regard their breasts not stress balls, and the girls are told their nipples, you're not tuning a radio. But I mean, this is just unbelievable. Stuff like that.
I can understand some of the language.
It's
It's aimed at 13, and it's probably the language that they use within the lunch break when they're discussing
and
things
let's face
anyway.
it,
they'll discover all that in due course. They don't need to be told.
No,
pregnancy levels
I think they're probably already discussing it at that age. So I don't think
need the apps.
Our pregnancy levels are appalling, amongst the worst in Europe. Something has to be done. So I can understand the motives behind this. What do you think?
I disagree. I think quite often information does not liberate. Actually, we might be better not telling them about these things, and so I think something might not have to be done. And I would
What would you do to lower these appalling teenage pregnancy rates that we have in this country?
I would not have European Union funding for these sort of programmes. And I would not be forcing our children to think about sex education. I would be urging them to learn French or to do a bit better at their English and to concentrate them. I'll play conkers or read Bunty, going back to the 1950s. And there is not that far a distance between what's going on here and what's been going on with Jimmy Savile. The people who are...
This is sex education.
Well, there is not. There is not that much difference between talking to young children about this sort of thing in a rather sort of aren't I down with the kids way, and getting to the Jimmy Savile stage. I'm sure.
Aren't I down with the kids? It's educational. It's educational. I think
it is very much down with the kids, Holly. I disagree.
Well, we have to leave it there, unfortunately. I'm sorry about that. It would be very interesting to hear what you've got to say about anything we've discussed this morning. Let's go to Jonathan in the hub with your thoughts.
Yeah, hi. That's we've had some amazing stuff coming through on Twitter to do the Jimmy Savile People saying, I'm so fed up with this story of Savile, but his latest headlines are just shocking. When will this ever end? This cannot be true. How can we keep this secret for so long? I can't begin to fathom what his story is about. And also people having a pop at the BBC going, what's happened to the BBC? We need a full inquiry about this as soon as possible. We've also had some interesting stuff about the sex education app. This app is no substitute for a parent. Parents should be educating their kids. This world has gone barking mad. We've also had one here saying that it shouldn't be the kids that need educating, it should be the parents that need an app to educate them as well. And also it said, this is not a bad idea, somebody said. No matter how hard you teach your children about sex, it isn't enough. This is also a guide for parents as well. So, folks, keep all your comments coming in. I really appreciate them. I'll see you very soon.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you. Right, still to come. She's been engaged nearly as much as a telephone, and when Kerry Woodford finally said I do, it was to her chief bridesmaid. They're both here after this break. Welcome back. Now, all brides get pre-wedding nerves, but for Kerry Woodford, those nerves became something of a habit after not 1 or 2, but 3 grooms-to-be were left without a bride ahead of their big day.
Well, finally, Kerry was proposed to one last time and she agreed. However, there wasn't a groom in sight. She was asked by her chief bridesmaid. Kerry and her partner, Sarah, join us now. And welcome, both of you. What have you done to your arm?
I've had an arthroscopy on my shoulder.
Right, are you all right now?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Good, OK. Well, we'll get you a cup of tea in a minute and look after you. What was your dream as a little girl of your wedding? What did you imagine that it was going to be like?
I imagined it to be Cinderella's castle and to a man.
Right. And that was pretty well the way it was looking.
Yeah.
Your first fiancé, you were with him for 11 years. You had 2 children,
yes.
didn't you? And then, now there's some dispute here, so we're going to have to sort of slightly gloss over this part of your life because there is an element of dispute. But it was, you didn't marry him. You were engaged for a long time,
yes.
but you decided not to marry for whatever reason. And so, moving on in your life, you have fiancé number 2, who's Dave.
Yes.
And Dave, you've known him from school, and years later you met him again in a pub.
Yes, I did, yeah. I met him again in a pub. He was a really supportive friend to me while I was in my first relationship.
You said you were in quite a dark place.
I was in a really dark place in my life, yeah. I was having a really bad panic attack and had a bit of a nervous breakdown due to past experience.
And so he was a great support to you?
He was a fantastic support, yeah. He sort of brought me out the other end of my tunnel.
So you wanted to make this one work? You tried to make this one work?
Yeah, I tried. I did try, but me and Dave were more friends than lovers. So.
You said you loved him, but you weren't in love with him.
I loved him, yeah, to pieces, but I wasn't in love with him, no.
Now, around that time, you then, in January 2010, met professional drummer Sarah. What were the circumstances of your meeting?
I was singing in a bar. Do you want to talk?
I was that mesmerised.
Well, for you, it was love at first sight.
Yeah, it was. Very much so. But it was dreamland.
Because you knew she was straight?
Well, as far as I knew, she was straight.
She was straight. So you thought, although she's gorgeous, it's not something that is probably ever going to happen.
And that I looked very much like a typical lesbian. Spiky hair, quite big. You know, definitely not anyone I thought Kerry would take a second look at.
And I mean...
thought she was a boy.
You thought she was a boy originally. And so how did this relationship sort of grow? Because first of all, you were very much friends, weren't you?
Yes.
I mean, for you, it was more, but you needed her there as support, and you were close girlfriends.
Yeah, I was supporting Sarah for a really hard time in her life. She lost her brother. He died, so I was supporting Sarah through that sort of time. I was going away with a friend to the Gambia, and we sort of scooped you up and said, why don't you come with us? And
well, eventually you formed a band together, didn't you?
We did, yeah.
Musically working together.
Yeah.
So unfortunately it doesn't work out with Dave, and you guys have met, but you are deeply in love, but not you. And so along comes Nick, fiancé number 3. He's in the band, and you actually, it sounds like it's sort of typical dad thing. Dad wasn't particularly keen on him, so you were.
Yeah.
For that reason.
It was like a rebellious thing.
Yeah.
If Dad doesn't like him, then I'm going to like him more.
But
this was a bit whirlwind, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, it really was.
You got to the stage where you sent out 100 invitations,
yes,
and you'd spent about £5,000 in preparation for the wedding.
Yeah, I had, yeah.
So what was the decision there? What happened for you? Well, I mean, this is quite a crucial moment in your relationship. When you
The relationship just started becoming, after I'd agreed to marry him, it just started becoming different to what it was before when I first met him. So the whole music fantasy that we had together and the singing and stuff like that just became completely different. He just changed, really, I suppose. Some people just change, don't they?
So the wedding invitations have gone out, and you, Sarah, you suddenly think, gosh, this is all running away with me. I've only got this one opportunity. Seize the day, and to finally turn around and tell Kerry how I really feel.
Yeah.
I mean, that must have taken real courage, bearing in mind she's about to walk down the aisle with a man.
Yeah, and a few bottles of drink under me, as well.
And so what was the reaction? What did you say?
We were sat on my bed, actually, after coming in from karaoke, and I looked at her and I said, Kerry, you just can't marry him. You just can't do it. She was like, I have to marry him. I want to marry him. I was like, you really don't want to marry him? She was like, what do you mean? I went, well, I love you. You can't marry him and you're not happy. You can't marry someone you're not happy with.
What's your thought then?
I knew that I wasn't 100% happy. I was kind of taken back by it, to be honest, but I knew that the feelings had developed with Sarah, but obviously I didn't think I was that way inclined. So it was a little bit...
confusing for you?
It was very confusing, yeah.
Well, not confusing for very long, because that was the decision that you made.
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
I am attracted to you, and I do love you, and what's more, I want to marry you. And so finally, and it's not that long ago, and after these sort of 3 false starts, you do walk down the aisle.
I did, yeah. I think I was more at the time worried about what people were looking at me as, you know. I didn't want people to sort of go, she's... You know, I wanted to just... I don't know, I was trying to prove myself.
Well, you must have had some understanding
people.
within your family, because your brother said, if you don't do it this time, I'm going to drag you down the aisle.
Yeah, he did. He said that I'm going to literally boot you down the aisle.
What about your kids? What did they think?
They loved Sarah anyway, because she was my friend, obviously, so she was one of my best friends originally. So my children were wonderful about it. Ellie was just like, Mummy, as long as you're happy, I'm happy.
Well, you don't like sexual tags, do you? You don't. I mean, you say you're not gay, but you're neither bi nor straight.
No, I'm not. I don't class myself as a gay girl. A lot of people would class themselves, I'm gay. I don't. I just class myself that I fell in love with a person, and it doesn't matter what gender that person is. I love her for her. If she was a man, I'd love him. You know, so I don't go out and say, oh, she's, you know, like a typical gay girl.
Well, you watched, you were saying, one example you gave was the American X Factor, where you're watching and said, oh, I fancy him, and actually that... you weren't happy with that.
My immediate reaction was, I don't like this person anymore.
I don't think it's very good.
Oh, beautiful voice.
The most important thing, the fundamental question, are you happy?
I'm really happy. Yeah, for the first time in my life, I am completely happy.
And you?
Very.
Yeah. Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank
Lovely
you.
to meet both
Great
of
story.
you.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
OK, right, it's competition time. And this week it's 4 nights, 6 people, £20,000, all via 35,000 feet. You and 5 friends could be jetting off on a New York spending spree. Alison Hammond's got the details.
Don't just stand there when you could be enjoying a trip of a lifetime, courtesy of yours truly. You and 5 friends or family could be jetting off for a fabulous 4-night stay in New York City. You'll enjoy luxury 5-star accommodation, a Michelin-star dining experience, a champagne limousine tour, and a trip to the Broadway show of your choice. You won't even have time to put your feet up. I couldn't even if I tried. As we'll also give you an incredible £20,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. That's gifts galore for your gang, or just some spare cash to boost your bank balance. It's totally up to you. That trip to New York and the cash could be yours. And if you want the chance to win it, answer this question correctly. Complete the title of the 1989 film When Harry Met A. Sally, B. Sarah, C. Suzanne. Call 09012 93 33 33. Calls cost no more than £1.03 from BT landlines. Other networks may be higher and mobiles considerably more. Text text your answer A, B or C to 83336. Text costs £1 plus one standard network rate message. You can also enter for free at itv.com. Entrants must be 18 or over. Entries made after lines close at 5 p.m. on Sunday the 28th of October will not be counted but may still be charged. Good luck!
Yes, good luck with that. Now, it's a real pleasure to introduce our next guest. She's one of the most influential soul singers in the world and one of the most charted female vocalists of all time.
Now celebrating 50 years in music, Dionne Warwick's name not only stands for one of the best talents in the business, but also as a tireless charity campaigner as well.
Before we talk about half a century of hits, let's hear some for ourselves.
Why do you have to be a heartbreaker when I was being what you want me to be? Keep shining, knowing you can always count on me. For sure, that's what friends are for. All the love in the world won't take you away from me. In all my wonder, forever lay down here with you.
Oh wow! We don't often
day.
applaud our guests when they're here, but I think we think you deserve one. So, Dionne Warwick, ladies and gentlemen. 50 years in the business. Have you thought, where the hell did all that go?
No, I felt every single one of it.
I suppose there's nothing really that would solidify the passing of time as the fact that you have a duet on your new album with your son,
Yes.
David, and singing Say a Little Prayer.
Say a Little Prayer, yeah.
And what was that like?
Unbelievable. You know, it's such a joy to be able to say both of my children were a part of this CD. David, of course, is appearing singing with me.
Yeah.
And Damon, he mixed and did most of my vocals for this.
Oh wow, it's a real family affair.
Absolutely a family affair.
The songs, there's 3 new tracks on there, but also
4 new tracks.
4 new tracks.
Yes.
Next cheat. But also the classics on there. But as the sort of throughout the 50 years, when you sing those songs, the meanings change to you.
Absolutely. You know, like I kept saying for many years prior to today, the songs that Hal David wrote lyrics to, and of course the melodies people will always remember, have the ability of growing. So as I grew and matured, so did my approach to singing these particular songs.
So what started off as very hopeful and a little bit naive as you go through life. Yeah.
We're all young at one time in our lives, and as we progress and mature, I think everything takes on different connotations and meanings.
It must be nice, because a lot of people, when they sit here and they say, oh, don't make me sing that one again, they almost don't want to sing their hits because they get bored of it, but to be able to grow and change with it, it's wonderful.
Those people are crazy.
Yeah, I think so too.
Well, the trouble is
How
with
do
you,
you argue with success?
Yeah.
if you didn't sing your hits, you'd have nothing to sing.
There you go.
Because they are pretty well all hits, and partly because, I mean, obviously your incredible voice, but the relationship you had with Burt Bacharach, who we were very lucky
And
to
Hal
meet. He was
David.
here a while ago, and Hal David.
Yes, please.
And the both of them, they discovered you, didn't they?
No, we discovered each other.
Did you?
Yeah.
How did that happen? Because you were singing with your sister at the time.
We did a background session for the Drifters, and Bert had written a song with Bob Hilliard, another songwriter, and was just consummating his partnership with Hal David. And he approached me after the date was over and asked if I would do more demonstration records and some background work on songs he would be writing.
Yeah.
And that's how we all met.
You said of Hal David that he's the reason that you're a singer.
The most prolific lyricist I think that has ever existed.
Yeah.
I can't think of one person who's written a lyric for any song at any time that can stand toe-to-toe with Hal David.
And it was his ability to sum a situation up in a nutshell, just to have it there.
He wrote what I refer to as vignettes, the beginning, a middle, and an end.
And then you've got Burt Bacharach, who you say that every time you went in to sing his melodies, it was like a musical exam.
It certainly was.
Why?
Well, I was in college at the time, too. You know, I was at the Hart College of Music. And Bert's melodies are very intricate. And without any rhyme or reason, if he feels he wants to throw a 5/4 bar in the middle of a 3/4 measure, he does it. You know, that's what makes him comfortable.
So it's like vocal gymnastics.
That's the drummer he marches to.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting.
Well, it was an incredible partnership, and the time that you spent together was
no doubt
profound and prolific for all of you. But it broke up in 1972. It was acrimonious, wasn't it, when it came apart?
Yeah, it was kind of very strange, and finally we all gathered our thoughts together and figured out what went wrong. Well, the first thing that went wrong was a little film called Lost Horizons, and because Hal David's lyrics were already accepted by the producer, Bert's melodies weren't, and he was asked to rewrite the melodies, so we just kind of didn't sit too well with him.
Yeah, yeah.
know? And from it's a lot of scuttlebutt that went around that Hal decided to take his family on a vacation while Bert was slaving over rewriting the music, and Bert got very upset about it. And
did you manage to, in the later years, put all of that friendship back together? Because we know that very recently Hal lost Hal, and he passed away. Which and so what was the relationship like in those latter years?
Oh, we didn't speak to each other.
Really?
No, not at all. Almost 12, 15 years.
Yeah.
And because of Aaron Spelling, the producer,
really?
he had a TV show that he had commissioned Bert to write, and he says the only person that can sing this is Dion, so you got to call her, and that's what he had to do. And
that's how it came back together.
Find Never Lost Lives.
My goodness.
You had a bit of rivalry with Cilla Black, didn't you?
Bit of a rivalry. Girlfriend, yes.
So you're not planning on meeting up with her while you're in?
Well, you know, no, that's been 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, you know, over a period of time, you realize what actually went down, and the poor kid really suffered the brunt of my disdain, when in fact it should have been Brian Epstein.
Yeah.
Well, you said "You're My World" would have been your next single in the States.
I was teasing her.
Were you teasing her? She said she quickly released her version in the UK. I honestly believed if I sneezed on my next record that she would sneeze on hers too.
That's true. When she did Anyone Who Had a Heart, it was verbatim.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Cilla Black, who we love Cilla. It's been a very difficult time for you, hasn't it? This last year, I think, must have been one of your most
horrendous.
difficult.
It really has. I've lost a lot of people that I cared dearly about.
Yes.
And you know, it seems to be. Well, God had a plan for all of us. And He has one for us. And when you've completed that, it's time for you to say bye-bye.
We lost. You say that we discussed.
I lost my cousin.
Yeah.
Whitney. Everybody knows and loves.
Yeah.
But we still have her around. Thank God. I lost Hal David.
Yeah.
I lost a nephew who's 24 years old. I lost my uncle. I've lost. Then we look at people like. Oh my goodness.
Too many.
Yeah,
too many.
Too many, and you know it's. But I have a feeling that, and I've been taught this, that once we've completed whatever God put us here to do, it's a phone call we're gonna all answer.
Yeah.
You know, so. And thank God we had the period of time that we've had with each other.
And you say of Whitney, remember her for the music,
her
musical legacy.
legacy.
Forget the other stuff.
Well, you know, everybody goes through whatever they're going to go through.
Yeah.
And her music will outlive us all.
Yes. Well, it's such a pleasure to have you here today.
Really
know that you're at the end of the show. You're going to sing "Always Something There to Remind Me," which I want it to be the end of the show because I can't.
I know.
I'm going to try to sing. It's awfully early.
It is a bit early, yeah. I'm sorry about that. But it's all here on this celebratory.
I love the photo on the
50th anniversary. Look at the photo on here, and that really is absolutely stunning. Beautiful.
Yeah, that first one was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you, Dion.
Thank you.
We'll see you at the end of the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Right, next though, always someone there to remind us of what's going on the high street.
I like what you
did
did
you see what
there.
I did there?
Very
Thank
good.
you. Alexis Conran is here with more consumer advice to help you out. That's next.
like when you open your purse or your wallet, is the first thing that falls out a money-off coupon? If so, you're not alone. It's official. We're a nation of voucher vultures.
And would you share to save cash? Well, it's time for some money-saving advice with our consumer champion no less, Alexis Cunningham.
Being elevated to champion. We've got so much to rattle through.
Yes.
First of all, let's start with food labelling, because that's in the headlines
Food
today.
labelling. So the government have announced there's going to be a consistent front-of-pack food labelling system. It is optional, but ministers are confident that most food manufacturers and food industry are going to opt in. So this is basically getting the food system labelling all comprehensive,
So
because so far people are using their own different systems, and it's very confusing for the consumer to know what's in what. So we're going to use guideline daily allowance, colour coding, and the wording of high, medium and low to indicate fat, salt, sugar and calories.
Like a traffic light sort of
Exactly.
labelling.
But it's going to be universal on all the packaging, so you're going to be instantly be able to see
It
what's
is really
healthier
good.
for you. It's
I think it's
very,
really
very
good.
good, because people need to know what they're putting in their bodies.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is our tip of the week. So we're looking at 1 in 5 of us are looking to save money and avoiding buying stuff from new. So we're looking at sharing, we're looking at recycling, we're looking at buying together. So we've got a couple of interesting websites here for you. The first one is Whipcar. Now this is really a neighbour-to-neighbour car club. So this is what the website looks like. I've put in a postcode in here. So you can put your postcode of where you live, and you see neighbours around you that are renting out their cars. Now, you can rent them per hour, per day, per week.
What a good idea.
Now, the great thing about this is that the fee that you pay, so the person who's renting out their car is not risking their car insurance, because the fee that you pay gives you insurance for the time that you're renting the car. So you're not risking your no claims bonus or anything. The fee that you pay, you get all sorts of different cars. There's cheapers, more expensive. There's £81 for a Mercedes. And you can rent it, you go, you pick up the keys, you use it, you pay your money, turn it back.
If you're going on holiday and you can't be sitting around...
Exactly, it can earn you some money.
Good idea.
I think
of course, there's another one called Lift Share, which is people who've got regular routes that they do. They're commuting, maybe. You can go online, put in a route that you're interested in, find out if somebody else is travelling that route, and you can share the route. It cuts down on CO2 emissions. You can share the costs.
What about for clothes?
For clothes, you girls, Girl Meets Dress is the website. Now, again, it's... you know, why buy a new dress when you're only going to wear it once? You can go online. They've got 3,500 dresses.
Did you see that picture in the top right-hand corner there?
They're tight.
Yeah, is it half term? Is it okay?
They're only tight.
So you can choose 3 dresses. You choose which one to wear. You send them back in a prepaid box, and instead of buying a dress, you can wear a nice, lovely new dress for a very small price.
Brilliant idea. And you can put a £7 insurance to cover it, just
in case anything goes wrong. Exactly.
Details on the website of all of the things we're talking about here.
Yep.
Getting your children saving.
Yes.
This is an interesting one, because we've got the NatWest pigs in front of us here.
Yes.
NatWest don't do the pigs anymore, but they're encouraging children to save with them.
So
but the thing is, I looked at this morning and I thought, it's a very clever idea, because what you do is you capture your new... accounts and customers early.
For life.
Yeah.
Well, look, that's a kind of a more cynical way of looking at it, but what we need to look at is that cynical, moi. What we're looking at is more and more parents are worried about their kids' financial future, and it is a very good idea to start educating kids from a very young age on how to handle money. It shouldn't be something that's very alien to them. So having an account, being able to manage it from a very young age is a good idea.
Tax. Children are taxed in the same way as an adult?
Yes, they are. They are taxed in the same way as an adult, and there's no age limit as to when you can open a bank account. It could be as young as you like. Of course, you're not going to get overdrafts, things like that, because children cannot be responsible for their own debts.
Okay.
But the advice that we have for you is there's different options. There's junior ISAs, there's regular savings accounts, and there's cash saving notice accounts and bonds. The best thing you can do is go down to your local branch or whoever you bank with, see what they have to offer. But it's a good idea to start getting your children to learn about managing their money and having some sort of budget. You know?
No, it is a very good idea.
What about vouchers? Because you mentioned vouchers.
Vouchers! Yes, it's all the rage. But you've got to be careful, because there's a lot of deals out there that are too good to be true, sound too good to be true, and they are. So you're getting hundreds and hundreds of websites that are offering you codes and coupons. So these are myvouchercodes.co.uk, Eat241, and we've got Voucher Clout. These are offering you vouchers and coupons, and when you buy something, there's a little code that you can put to get a discount. Perfectly good. Just be careful when you use them that it is from a legitimate, trusted website. You get discount websites like Carcosa, Net-a-Porter. These are kind of more your high-end, finding sort of designer items, again at big discounts. Group buying sites, Groupon, Living Social, Voucher. Again, be careful when you use these sites. There's some very, very good deals, but you just do your homework, call the shop, call the company, say, I've seen this voucher, is it legit?
Don't be afraid to call them.
Don't be afraid to call them, look it up.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. We're going to put details on our website of this little book of big scams and how you get it. So if you want to know how to get hold of that, then have a look at our website.
Very good.
Yeah, we're right back after the news.
Welcome back. Coming up in the next hour, free legal advice with Marilyn Stowe. And should you be divorced before or after Christmas?
And also, we've got these familiar faces as well.
Sandy Mazel Tov, you're through to the final of Jewish Mother of the Year.
Come out like dirty Harry.
But let's catch up with your thoughts first on the show so far. Jonathan Wilkes is in the hub.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. We've had loads of support for Kerry and Sarah, who we met early on the show. Kerry was the bride who left not one, but 3 husbands to be at the altar. Stacey comments says, good on them two, I say. I think she probably had a lucky escape. A lot of people marry for the wrong reasons. And Laura said, as long as they're both happy, who are we to judge? I do, however, feel sorry for the man she jilted at the altar. Poor blokes. Yeah, I feel a bit for him as well. Anyway, listen, we spoke earlier as well about the sex education app being made available to teenagers. This has really got people going at home. Let's go to the avatar wall, shall we? Where are we? Move that one there, and we'll have this one. This one says, irresponsible. School children need to learn it's wrong to be having sex so young, not encourage it. All they need to know is to use a condom if they do actually do it. I think that sounds a bit like sex education to me anyway. And then also, we've got a young girl here. We'll call Miss Renard, because I can't say her first name. It's just sex education in a modern way. Get with it. So, folks, we've had some fantastic comments. Please keep sending them all in, and hopefully I'll get to read them out later, and I'll see you a bit later on.
Thank you, Jonathan. We'll say good morning to Alexander. We think that's what it is. What?
Thanks for that, mate.
You're welcome. Very good. He just gave up on that, didn't he? Right, now, last time we featured Marilyn Stowe on the show, we discussed the effects that divorce had on children.
Well, today Marilyn's offering advice on the issue of the timing of your divorce. Should you set the wheels in motion now or wait until the new year? Obviously, Christmas is coming up. There's never a nice time to divorce, but is there a better time of divorcing?
I don't think there is. I think that if the marriage has irretrievably broken down, you've got to think of yourself, you've got to think of making short-term arrangements and long-term arrangements. And being an ostrich and pretending it's not happening, I don't think is a good idea for anybody.
However, March is a bad time to separate.
March is a bad time because it has capital gains tax implications. So if you can delay it into April, that's a good time, and then you've got the whole financial year to make transactions between the parties.
So what is it we're talking about there? Is it the moment of divorce, the minute you are legally separated, or is it beginning the negotiations?
In terms of tax, it's the final year of separation that counts. So therefore, if you can bring it into the new tax year, you've got the whole of the ensuing year to sort out your arrangements. Right. That's assuming you've got capital gains tax issues at all.
Right, OK. So what about the Christmas period then? And this is we've been asked a lot about this, so this is why we're covering it. It sounds an extraordinary thing, but a lot of people have asked.
Well, this is a good time to think about it because there are arguments over Christmas. People do get very stressed and very very uptight about it. If you are separated, this is a very good time to sort out what is going to happen over Christmas. If you're thinking about separating, Christmas can be the catalyst, it can be the final straw. So actually, doing something sooner rather than later is probably the best thing.
You see an increase in new clients at Christmas time, don't you?
We sometimes see an increase before Christmas because people are sort of getting so stressed up about the thought of Christmas that they think that actually it might be better to do something sooner rather than later. But then we also see people after Christmas who've had an awful time and then decide to do something.
Yeah, well, D-Day, isn't it? The first day back at work in January is traditionally supposed to be a divorce lawyer's busiest day of the year. Does that ring true?
Not always.
Not
no,
always.
No. I think Easter time is quite busy. And also after the children go back to school in September.
All right, well, let's get on with callers on the line now who want your advice. First of all, we have got Sally on the phone. Good morning to you, Sally.
Hello.
Now, you've been married for 19 years. You've got 4 children and your husband sadly left you earlier this year, didn't he?
That's right.
And he told you he no longer loved you anymore?
He did.
Gosh, that must be incredibly hard to hear, particularly when you've got your 4 children to think about.
It was.
Does he contribute financially? What's the situation there?
He is. He's still paying the household bills because I left work after the 4th child because he was working away, so it just made life easier. So at the moment he is still paying all the household bills.
And he now says that there's someone in his life, someone else in his life,
Yeah.
so he wants a divorce.
Well, he said there wasn't anybody else. It was just that he didn't love me anymore. But about 2 weekends ago, he actually texted me and said that he was seeing somebody else now. So I think I've got no option now but to go down the divorce route because the trust is gone now.
So you're wondering whether to do it now or wait
Yeah.
until after Christmas for the sake of the children?
Exactly.
OK. Well, when you separate, you've got to think of it in 2 stages. First of all, the interim period until you are finally divorced, and then what's going to happen after the divorce. And the finances are very important, so you've got to consider your income requirements and capital requirements and how you're going to meet the immediate requirements in terms of housing, mortgage, electricity, all the bills, and your own maintenance and that of the children. So it's very important to actually not pretend that there isn't an elephant in the room and actually deal with it.
So is there a feeling of sort of striking whilst the iron's hot?
Definitely.
Is
Definitely, yes, because you can't allow debts to mount up. You've got to reach some sort of agreement about the ongoing situation and then decide longer term what's going to happen, where you're going to live with the children, and also, of course, there are parenting issues, how the children are going to be parented going forward. So pretending or being loath to do something is quite short-sighted.
How old are your children, Sally?
They range from 16 to 2.
Oh gosh, I mean,
shocking.
The trouble is there is no good time to do it, is there?
There isn't, but it's better to do something sooner, definitely, rather than later.
And can you communicate OK with him?
No.
So that makes things... There may be a mediator. We've spoken about this.
Via email, the only way we communicate now.
The thing is that if that is the situation, and if you're not communicating, then the children probably are beginning to get used to that anyway, aren't they? And so, provided that Christmas for them is as normal as it can be, then at least you're protecting them.
You can reach you can enter into what's called a parenting plan, and you can set down and work out blocks of time and who's going to have the children during what period. But what would concern me here is, first of all, regularising the situation. If a marriage is irretrievably broken down, ending it, and also sorting out the finances.
OK. Sally, good luck.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
Emma on the phone now. Hello, Emma. Emma, are you there?
Hello.
Hiya.
Hi.
So you split from your husband in May, and the divorce is ongoing.
Yeah.
Since then, your husband hasn't been keeping proper contact with your children, and you say that he's let them down time after time. So what is your issue? Is whether or not you force him to see them at Christmas?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's better really for the children, whether I get in contact with him now. It's been a while now since he saw them, and whether or not I should get in contact and say what's happening about Christmas, or whether I just leave it.
When was the last
carry
time
on with Christmas without him?
He saw them about 6 weeks ago, did he?
Sorry?
When was the last time he saw them?
It was probably about 2 months ago, 6 to 8 weeks ago.
OK, and you sort of, there hasn't been very much contact, and he hasn't contested anything?
No. No. He's pretty much just sort of disappeared.
Yeah.
So, Marilyn, does someone's sort of lack of interest in the family and family life make any difference in a divorce settlement?
The reason why somebody clears off, there are several reasons. One of them could be that they just find it too difficult to cope with emotionally. Fathers have emotions just as well as mothers, and it may be just too much for him. We don't know. But what this mum can do is, if she wants, is she can make an application to the court for a residence order and for contact to be defined, so that she knows and he knows when the contact is going to take place. The courts generally think that fathers should play a role in their children's lives. The fact that parents don't get on doesn't necessarily mean that fathers won't get on with their own children.
Yeah.
And again, it's a case of do something sooner rather than later. Don't leave it right until just Christmas Eve and then have a whopping great row on the doorstep. That's the worst thing that can happen. So my view would be to send a letter or to send an email suggesting Christmas contact and see what happens after that.
Okay.
Do you think that sounds reasonable?
Yeah, I'm just worried about, I mean, we've done contact centres and things like that, and he's just not turned up. So my concern would be that even if I did get in touch with him and say about Christmas, that he wouldn't turn up anyway.
How old are the children?
2, 4 and 6.
Right, OK, so they're missing him, I assume.
Yeah.
Are there lots of questions?
There are, yeah. I mean, my eldest is very, very quiet, and every so often she'll come and say she doesn't understand why she's not seeing Daddy anymore.
Oh, gosh, that must be so hard for you.
Yeah, it's just very difficult to explain, and I just wonder if it's better just to carry on as we are and not rock the boat sort of thing.
Well, he doesn't have an automatic entitlement to contact. No. If you aren't happy with it, you can just stop it. But it's a shame if that happens. I personally would suggest persevering, because I do think fathers should play a role in their children's upbringing. I think kids do need the
Or maybe even attempt to ease him back in gently and just a little bit here and there, and not too much pressure. And
God, it's like having a fourth child though for you. It must be a nightmare. Enough on your plate.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, if you need advice on marriage breakdown or want help working through a relationship that's not going well, then go to our website, itv.com/thismorning for details on organisations who can help you.
Still to come, as more and more people are choosing to celebrate their lives at their funerals, we're looking at some of the more unconventional caskets after this break. Don't go away.
Welcome back. Now, not long until the two finalists hoping to win the coveted title of Jewish Mum of the Year have their chicken soup challenge.
Now, though, for something which at one time would have been a much more sombre affair, funerals. Apparently, they've changed very little in the last few hundred years, but recently, more and more people are choosing to celebrate their life in their death.
It was recently revealed that pop music is now outplaying traditional hymns 2-to-1 at funerals, and there's growing evidence to suggest that far from mourning our loved ones after death, they're throwing a party for the dearly departed.
Any excuse?
Yes.
Today, Dominic Maguire from the National Association of Funeral Directors is here to explain the change. And good morning, Dominic.
Morning.
You say that the change started after the death of Diana, Princess of Wales.
There seems to be a sea change since Diana's funeral. I think it's important to say, first of all, that the majority of people suffer great pain and great loss when someone of significance leaves their lives. They derive great consolation from the practice of the religion and the ceremony surrounding the funeral. But more and more, particularly younger people today, are wanting the funeral to be a much more bespoke and individual thing. And consequently, new practices have grown up. Online memorialisation, for example, where someone can put a testimony and an expression of love or affection for someone who has passed away. They can post photographs. We also have the emergence of the prepaid funeral plan, where almost 1 million people now in the UK have actually pre-arranged their own funeral. So there certainly has been a whole sea change in people's attitudes to funerals.
Well, we, as the Brits, are pretty uptight about death, aren't we?
I'm a bit uptight about it.
I'm hugely uptight about it. It bothers me enormously, and it'll bother me less, I suppose, when it happens. But there are other cultures, other countries that deal with it better than we do?
Oh, absolutely. And even within the UK, the Celts seem to have a better way of dealing with death. The whole business of eternal life and that they will meet that person again somewhere is something which sustains them, and a great deal of comfort from the practice of their faith, yes.
So, and there seems to be, as we have here, this huge variety of different coffins that you can now be buried in.
Absolutely.
So let's start off with this first one. This is the cardboard coffin. And is this a financial thing, or is this something where people actually...
it's a mixture. It can be a thing where someone really doesn't want to spend very much money on the funeral, or it can be someone who is eco-minded and doesn't want to waste natural resources. Generally, these are made out of 100% recyclable paper. They're very, very basic. They're very modest. But once again, you know, people want them, and the job of the funeral director at the end of the day is to provide a service to families so that they feel that the service has been appropriate.
It's a bit flimsy, isn't it? If you had a windy day when you have been buried and the lid blows
off... Well, it wouldn't actually, but be fastened on in such a way that wouldn't happen. I mean, all the necessary...
and that's strong enough to hold...
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's strong enough to hold a deceased person.
So I know that the prices of coffins varies throughout the country, but sort of on average, what would you be looking at for something?
Well, it's difficult to give a price because funeral directors have different ways of structuring the cost of their funerals. Some of them build the profit into their professional service and charge very little for the coffin. Some charge very little for their professional service and put their markup on the coffin. So it's difficult to give you... but if you take this coffin here, for example, this is a willow. These can be made from either willow... Oh, beautiful. Willow or bamboo or cane. And there's a tremendous amount of work actually goes into manufacturing something like this. There's a lot of man-hours involved in the production of this type of coffin, and the interior of this is just a very, very simple calico, biodegradable interior, which, once again, keeping with the environmental concerns of people. And generally this would only be used for, but not exclusively, but people who want to be buried, for example, in a woodland burial ground, where the grave is unmarked, it's in among natural foliage and in among trees, and it doesn't take up the space that cemeteries
Can you use these for cremation?
Crematoriums, yes, you can use them for cremations as well.
And because it takes a lot of man-hours, would this be as expensive as a...
This would probably be more expensive than the ordinary conventional standard coffin, yes. Yeah.
I think this might be my favourite.
Would it really? All right,
I mean, that's a weird thing to say,
yeah,
isn't
sure,
it?
right, OK.
But I mean, this is the woolen one, and actually in 2010 it was reported that Prince Charles stressed the value of woolen cloths for sustainable living. He later asked for a selection of woolen coffins to be displayed prominently at a garden party at Clarence House.
Yes, that's correct. This comes from Yorkshire. These are manufactured in Yorkshire. There's a little space here as well, but they can attach a nameplate of the deceased onto it. I'm led to understand, in actual fact, that this come about as the result of some person who was on work experience discovering something in relation to the 1668 Burial in Wool Act.
Oh, yeah.
And the woolen shroud, the way things were done in medieval times, and this is the natural runner from that there.
I think that's beautiful.
Can we have a look inside that
You
one?
can,
It's
sure.
looking like it's when it's inside.
Let me see. Gosh, it makes me feel funny when you open it up. I don't like it very much.
No, well... Nice on the outside.
Nice.
Nice on the outside, yeah.
Then you can have whatever picture I assume you want on your coffin lid.
Yes.
This is a more traditional shape.
A more traditional shape, the shape of a coffin. Of course, these here, although they're rounded, they can be done in the ordinary cruciform shape as well.
Oh, okay.
But this is becoming very popular because what we're now finding is that lots of people are asking that photographs that are significant, for example, a chronology of someone's life, right from childhood, various photographs of significant events, their first day at school, perhaps their engagement party, the day of their wedding, right through to their old age, and this can be put on the coffin. So there's a whole sort of run of the person's life.
So you just send the picture in.
Pictures are give them to the funeral director. They will arrange to pass them on to the coffin manufacturer, who in turn will sort it all out.
It'll be Keith Lemon on yours and Gordon McGopher on mine.
Oh, good Lord! Don't say that.
These are works of art.
I think we should move out the way.
They are. They are works of art. They're obviously very bespoke, and they're for the real specialist. For example, someone who would have an interest in railways, or someone who would have an interest in canal boats, for example, can have this type of coffin.
I mean, they are fantastic.
Oh, they are. They are fantastic, and it reflects obviously the person's passion. I think what's important from the funeral director's point of view is that a funeral ought to in some way encapsulate and reflect something of the personality and the lifestyle of the deceased.
Well, whoever
And
digs the grave won't be very happy because they'll have to dig a great big hole to put the
they will
scar
have
in.
to dig a great big hole, but I'm sure they'll be able to dig a big hole for something like this.
Is that acceptable? Would you say, like, we're going to need a bigger hole because he's going to get buried in a Rolls
Oh
Royce?
yes, you can get a big. You have to buy more space, obviously, because graves are generally a conventional size, 6 by 4.
What about this one behind us here?
Oh,
That's
that would be
enormous.
a special order, certainly. But if the family were prepared to pay the money for it, I really don't see any reason why a local authority or indeed a cemetery owner wouldn't open a grave. The difficulty with that is, you might find that you couldn't cremate someone in that because the crematoriums have a restriction in the size of coffins they can accept.
This is intriguing.
This is very most odd. So this is an egg.
This is an egg. I seen this at first at an exhibition in the National in the Royal Festival Hall last year.
How do you squeeze someone into that?
Well, they're put in the fetal position. And someone had asked specifically that this be made for them, and this was specially made. This cost, I believe, round about £3,000 to make. As you can see, there's a lot of detail, a lot of work goes into it. And it was that person who specifically asked that be made so that they could be buried in the fetal position from conception right through and birth right through to their death.
Did we say, can we open this one? Did we know? We can open this one. I didn't know whether we'd agreed to this one was all right, but it's quite open. Would you give me a hand?
Sure.
If we open that up.
Oh,
So
I
just
don't
wanna-
like it when you open them up.
Blimey. Yeah, that really is. There's not a lot of space in there, is
There's
there?
not a lot of space. Yeah, they would have difficulty getting a guy of my size in there, but I'm sure they can make a bigger one if it was necessary. It wouldn't be my cup of tea,
But for somebody, it
But
may
for
very
somebody
well
who felt strongly enough about it and wanted
I
it
guess
to be
that's the
done.
thing. It's all personal choice,
It's
isn't it?
all personal choice. It's all about, as I say, reflecting something of the lifestyle of the person. The very fact that 1 million people have now pre-planned their own funeral is a very, very clear indication that more and more people are now wanting to take this whole thing into their own hands. 20, 30 years ago, a funeral was something where you had a black hearse, a funeral director and a top hat. Nowadays, you can go on a motorbike hearse. A friend of mine has just bought an old London Routemaster bus and he's fitted a coffin deck into it. So really, whatever you want, provided it's legal and it's reasonably tasteful, you can have it.
Thank you very much.
Fascinating.
Thank you.
Fascinating. All the details on our website if you're interested in any of these. Hopefully not for the moment. Still to come, a kosher contest for the finalists in the Jewish Mum of the Year competition.
I can smell it.
Last night we saw Jacqueline and Sandy go through to next week's final.
Today they're here and they're cooking their own versions of the classic chicken soup. But whose will win the taste test? We will decide after this break. Yes, good luck. Now the X Factor's well underway and not a million miles away from the bright lights of Wembley. A more low-key but equally fought-over contest has been taking place.
Yes, last night's Jewish Mum of the Year saw the two finalists, Sandy and Jacqueline, announced in the last few weeks. The mums have organised bar mitzvahs, they've played matchmakers, they've taken the old folks out. I was watching them singing on the bus last night. Today, their challenge puts their reputations at stake. It's the chicken soup taste test. And not really much of a competition, because we're obviously going to taste both of them. We're going to tell you they're gorgeous anyway. But
they smell lovely.
Welcome, ladies, because they're just incredible. So let's start, first of all, here with Jacqueline and principally what you're going to do.
OK, well, this is the easy-peasy version of chicken soup. This is like, anybody could do this. There's no real skill involved. I shouldn't really say that. We have chicken fowl, which is the female bit of the chicken, which goes into either a dry pot or some boiling
so
water.
You just sort of quartered it?
Well, it was bought in quarters, but usually we'd have a whole fowl, pop it in usually a slightly bigger pot, given the size of my family, pop it in, some carrots, which are trimmed, peeled and chopped, some celery, which goes in just for the flavour, we don't serve that, whole onion, the lucky person gets this in the bowl, and some peppercorns, which are always a fight over in my house to have cooked peppercorns on the plate.
Excuse me,
and some seasoning.
Bless you.
Excuse me. Right.
OK, so you're going to pop all that in, are you?
OK, you go. And then what about over
Sandy?
here?
Oh, well,
Yours is a bit
no,
different.
I do same thing, boiler chicken, and I put it, I use these bags, which are muslin bags, right, and I put the chicken in cold water because I wait for it to boil up and skim it because it gets quite a lot of
sort of foamy bit on the top.
Yeah, and so I wait for that to boil up, tie that up all ready, and put it in the pot. And while that's cooking...
How long will you boil that for?
It'll take about 20 minutes altogether from scratch. And while that's all coming up and waiting for all the nice foamy bits, then I will then take the carrots and the onion, I don't use celery, and put them in another bag, which I'll
So it's all individually put in this, so you end up with sort of a stock.
I've got 2 bags. Well, no, that's the soup. I mean, that is the soup.
Which is,
I'll also use a chicken stock cube and some chicken powder just to heighten the flavour.
So once they're all in the bags, when you've finished cooking, what do you do with the stuff that's in the bags?
Well, pull the bags out, which is much easier than getting... In the old days, you used to get the spoon and it takes forever. So the bag makes it very easy. And then I just pull the bag out with the vegetables, take the onion out because I don't serve the onion, have the carrots ready. And also the same with the chicken. Take the chicken out so you haven't got it falling all over the place.
Very clever.
Very good. So
we're going in here.
A little bit about both of our ladies whilst they're cooking. Jacqueline is a mum of 6. Said that she wanted to win because there's not a family situation, good or bad, that she hasn't been through.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I've seen it all.
And then we've got Sandy, very glamorous, and she's the eldest mum in the competition.
Yeah, thanks.
Said that children always come first. And she's currently dating Victor.
I am. Currently, hopefully, yeah.
This is the one. True love.
Yeah.
Ah,
lovely. Lovely.
Have you enjoyed doing the series?
I loved it.
You've enjoyed it?
Yeah, I really, really loved it. Loved all the challenges and the people around us and the team. Everybody was fantastic.
And how's that sort of within the Jewish community? What's the reaction been to it?
Well, amongst my part of the community, the reaction has been absolutely phenomenal. They've been really supportive. I think there's always the worry that, you know, people might not be portrayed very well. But I have to say, all credit to the producers. They've shown everybody as we actually are.
Oh, good.
So that's
what you making
amazing.
now?
These are the dumplings that will then go in the finished item, and we use either a homemade matzah meal, as you see that Sandy's doing over
I make
there.
mine from scratch.
Yeah.
And I just have a mix, which is exactly the same product that comes in a bag. Rip it open if you're really pushed for time. In with your eggs, a bit of oil, whip it up, roll it into balls with a damp hand, let it set, and then they're ready to go. But they do take some time to stand.
Yeah,
I'm going to do noodles.
I'm going to
noodles as well.
put my eggs. These have been tested; they're okay. And a bit of salt in, and ginger. This is from my mum. This is like from our family recipe. A little bit of ginger, and I'm going to add. In a minute, a little bit of oil, 2 teaspoons of oil. There's half a pound of matzah meal. It's called matzah meal.
Matzah meal.
Yeah. 2 teaspoons of oil.
Okay.
And a bit of water. A bit like pastry, really, kind of.
Right, you've got
mush it around. And
30 seconds left, ladies.
Oh, really? What, to make the knädel? These are called knädels.
Knädels?
Knädels. It's actually German, I think, for ball. And that's why it's called a knädel.
Knädel?
It's round and, yeah.
When do you put your noodles in?
Well, the noodles I cook at the last minute.
Yeah.
Leave them on the side like they're pre-cooked now.
Yeah.
And then pop them in the bowl as I'm serving, usually at the table.
Okay.
So you get some chicken, some carrots, some peppers, some noodles, and of course, loads of soup.
So we're just
Time
ready
to play
serve
time,
up.
ladies.
Yeah, I don't bother with the noodles because
No?
everybody eats 150 knädels, so there's no point really. And then you just kind of...
Can't eat a noodle if you're full of a knädel,
No,
can you?
you can't. And that's a knädel, you see?
And there's a knädel.
And there's
Now
a knädel.
Let me look
Right.
at your knädels. Hold on a second.
It's a very well-formed knädel.
That's
There
a
it is.
knädel.
And there is a knädel.
A Sandy's knädel.
And I'm looking forward to having a taste.
Oh, yes. You can.
So plate up, plate up.
Right, so...
See what? This is what you do. You would take that out like that.
And then you just
okay.
pop it all
and
in.
then
I see
take
what you mean. That is
right,
rather
and
easy,
there's the
isn't it?
chicken.
Yeah.
So that's what you've done. You've taken it, you've shredded up the chicken a little bit.
Can I
and
just tell you one thing that's really important? You would never, ever, ever serve chicken soup on the same day that you make it. It has to be made the day before.
Oh, really?
Left in the fridge overnight.
I always think that about chili.
And a bit of, in case there's any fat or residue at the top, and you take that off. But it tastes much better. Where are my knädels?
Oh, no.
There's a knädel. She lost it.
I'm always losing my knädels.
All right, let's have a taste over here
OK,
first.
yeah, we'll come over this side first of all. So... I love this sort of thing.
Oh, that's lovely.
Oh, my goodness gracious me, that is absolutely yum-arama. Amazing.
That's a lovely flavour.
That is really good.
Mine's just dripping out a bit.
Right, I'm going to try... Oh, gosh, I can't
And
get
they're like bullets. Do you want me to get a knife?
They're not. They're good. I just can't get one. I'm just going to... Actually, it's going to burn my mouth, isn't it?
I'm going to take it. I'm going to do it on here.
Yeah.
Well, that's lovely too. Ladies, both of you... Oh. They're slippery little knädels, aren't they?
Oh, the ginger's nice.
You can taste it.
It's a nice idea.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Good luck with the rest of the series.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the final.
We'll be watching to see who's crowned the finalists.
That's Tuesday at 9 o'clock on Channel 4.
Yeah. Lovely.
Thank
More
you,
chicken
ladies.
soup.
Thank you.
Thank
oh,
you.
yeah, we'll have that for our lunch. Don't let anyone take that off. Right then, straight after the break, see what happened when I caught up with Dame Judi Dench. That's coming up next.
Yes, good luck with her. Now, half a century after Doctor No. Sorry, introduce Cinema.
So we're talking about canadles over there, and she says, I like them. There's a soup company that starts with a K, which she just pronounced.
Wrong.
Yeah,
Right.
you don't have to explain it now.
I know, sorry.
It's valuable time up here.
Sorry. Half a century after Doctor No introduced Cinema goes to 007, this Friday, one of the year's most eagerly anticipated films hits the UK cinema screens, with some critics calling Skyfall the best Bond film ever.
While it's the 23rd film to feature the world's most famous spy, it's also the 7th time that Judi Dench has given Bond his orders as M, and I had the pleasure of meeting Dame Judi earlier this week. With a career that predates the first Bond film 50 years ago, Dame Judi Dench has done it all. 10 BAFTAs, 6 Olivier Awards, an Oscar, an OBE, a Dame of the British Empire. And here's what a few of her friends have said about her.
Judi Dench is every part she has ever played.
Judi Dench is wicked,
sneaky, naughty, devilish,
funny, joyous,
warm,
and just lovely.
And of course, she's been my favourite actress for a very long time. Dame Judi, I think the last time we met was 22 years ago, so we are making something of a habit of this.
Your legs didn't reach the ground then, did you?
No,
Sat on the edge of a chair.
In 1990, Dame Judi was a guest on Going Live. Now, I have something here, which is a treasured possession of mine. A treasured possession. It says here, Philip, Judi Dench on the bottom there, and it's upstairs, and I keep that. What I remember most about that meeting was how nervous you were the night before, because you were terrified that people weren't going to phone in and ask you questions. And then when you came on, yeah, it was the biggest response we'd ever had for anyone who ever came on. So did these things not come naturally, these sort of interviews?
No, they don't come naturally, and it's not really... You know, I can't make a speech in public. I'm always being asked to make a speech in public, and I really dread it, because in a way, it's the antithesis of what we do, you know. I can dress up and be another person and look like another person and say something, but then somebody's written it for me. But I think it's hard then to have to be yourself and, you know...
So when someone comes to you with a role, what is it about that role that makes you think, right, OK, that's me, I can do that?
Well, I've always liked somebody to come and tell me the story.
Yeah.
And because that ultimately is what our job is, to tell an audience a story and make them believe that you are that person in that story. So if the story that the person tells you is exciting and arrests you, then why ever not?
So that day you got the phone call saying, we'd like you to be M.
Yes, I didn't quite believe that.
No, really? Why?
I didn't quite believe... Well, because M had always been a man. I'm going to find whoever did this. For a minute, I thought that can't quite be right. That can't be quite true. Then Michael said to me, you've got to do it. He said, I'd like to live with a Bond woman. And so he did.
Michael was a very big Bond fan, wasn't
He
he?
was.
Yeah.
He was a terrifically big Bond fan, yes.
Sadly, in 2001, Dame Judi's husband of 30 years, accomplished actor Michael Williams, passed away after she played M in 3 Bond films.
What do you say about a man like that?
5 years later, and Judi Dench's M was back with a brand new Bond in the form of Daniel Craig.
You think of women as disposable pleasures rather than meaningful pursuits.
You noticed.
Bond was moving on, and so was the role of M. And in Skyfall, we find out more about her character than ever before. This is a big one for you. More lines, you know, and you're out, you are on location.
It shows much more about her past.
Yes.
And that she's... I never know which... Is it fallible when you make mistakes and infallible when you don't? Mm-hmm. That she's fallible.
Yes.
And has made mistakes that she perhaps hasn't acknowledged to herself. Or she certainly had doubts about, uneasy kind of nights she's had. And it comes to face her.
Well,
in the form of Javier Bardem. How charming.
What a fantastic Bond villain he is.
just wonderful.
I do hope that wasn't for me.
But that is.
What does she think of Bond?
Well, I think there's a healthy regard and disregard for him.
007, reporting for duty.
Where the hell have you been?
Enjoying death.
Well, we know that she has thought him expendable, but also she obviously can't quite do without him either.
Repeat, I do not have a clean shot. There's a tunnel ahead. I'm going to lose them. Take the shot. I can't. I may hit Bond.
For you to be out on location, which we don't see you very often, what was that like?
It was just wonderful. What was wonderful was speeding around in that beautiful car.
That was a shock to see that.
And I hadn't seen it before. It's heart-stopping.
It is.
In fact, I threw myself at it. That's not in the film, but I did throw myself against it.
It's not very M-like.
So, no, it wasn't. It was deeply un-M-like. But I did think it was absolutely beautiful. I loved... Am I allowed to say it? I don't know if I'm allowed to say it.
Well, if you're not, we'll
I
take
liked
it
all
out.
the gun work.
Do you?
Yes, I loved it.
Why?
Well, Sam Mendes said, you're joking 1 minute, and the next minute he said, you come out like Dirty Harry, he said.
And this time she does do quite a bit of gun work.
She does.
Ah, I know that look. And nobody does it better than Dame Judi Dench.
Oh, she did give you that.
She did, yeah. Don't ask any more. Don't spoil anything. It is an incredible film. Best Bond film ever.
Oh,
and
great.
Dame Judi, if you are watching, I still have my picture from all those years ago.
It's amazing.
There we are.
Well done.
More comments.
Yeah, well, like you just said, Phil, that was amazing, and we've had a load of comments on it. Some woman came up, Melanie said, I've not even seen the film yet, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's the best, greatest Bond film ever. Does Philip agree? Even though she's not seen it.
She's never seen it.
No,
She says it's the best one ever. Well, I have, and it is, yes.
I can't wait to see
think
it.
is.
I might guess it this weekend.
I really want to go and see it, but it doesn't come out till Friday, is that right?
Friday, yeah.
Yeah. Right, we've had a lot of on the casket, the demo of the funeral. Yeah. Now, bear with me on this one. This does end well. Right.
OK.
Emily says, watching the coffins on your shows brought back a memory of a funeral I went to. My late cousin had a cardboard coffin, and it happened to rain heavily on that day. The burial had to be rushed, as we were worried that the worst was about to happen. We laugh about it now, but at the time there was a lot of tears.
Oh, God.
Well, you don't want to go soggy
Well,
in
you've
the
got to
end,
be
do
careful.
you?
You don't.
Well, yeah, because as Amy said, if somebody got me a cardboard box when I die, she said I'd come back and haunt them and destroy them.
Oh, well, that's
But it's
not
all
very nice.
personal choice, isn't
Well,
it?
it is all personal choice. And also, this is a really nice one, actually. Jennifer says, my partner is a magician and wants to be buried in his favourite illusion with the caption, the one time he couldn't escape.
Very good.
Very good.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Right, in a moment, Dionne Warwick will be performing a Burt Bacharach classic, but here's what's in store tomorrow. On tomorrow's show, he's the neurosurgeon with skilled hands, but is he getting cold feet? Actor James Nesbitt on the dramatic new series of Monroe.
Former Met Detective Sue Hill is on the case and needs your help in solving some serious crimes.
Do you have a Corrie query or perhaps an issue with Emmerdale? Soapbox gets all interactive.
A boy band tip for the top. The lads from Lawson perform their new single.
Plus, she refused to give up her dead baby's organs and then went on to lose a second child who is in desperate need of a heart transplant. One family's organ donation nightmare. Tomorrow at 10:30.
Right, we couldn't leave you today without treating you to a song from one of the world's best voices.
Singing Burt Bacharach's always something there to remind me. It is the legendary Dionne Warwick. See you tomorrow. Bye now.
Song by Burt Bacharach and Hal David. I walk along the city streets. You used to walk along with me. And every step I take recalls how much in love we used to be. How can I forget you when there is always something there to remind me? Always something there to remind me. Always something there to remind me. I was born to love you.
you'll always be a part of me. Ooh. When shadows fall, I pass a small cafe where we would dance at night. And I can't help recalling how it felt to kiss and hold you tight. How can I forget you when there is always something there to remind me? Always something there to remind me. Always something there to remind me. I was born to love you, and I will never be free. You'll always be a part of me. Oh, 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 hey. If you should find you miss the sweet and tender love we used to share, just come back to the places where we used to go, and I'll be there. How can I forget you when there is always something there to remind me? Always something there to remind me. Always something there to remind me. I was born to love you, and I will never be free when there is always something there to remind me. Always something there to remind me. Always something there to remind me. Always something there to remind me.
Investigations into the murder of a seemingly mild-mannered accountant reveal a double life. DCI Banks tonight at 9. Next, though, chef James Martin joins the girls for some loose chat.